try my level best to make you clear about or a glance about all these three technologies. First, to begin with Python. So here I would like to share with you about the Python language, its history and evolution, and a glance of Python language. And then I would like to present before you the importance of Python language for developing any IoT application. And then the role of Python in data science. What is data science, and then role of Python in data science. So this is what is outline of my session. First Python, and then Internet of Things, Python for Internet of Things, and then I'll be briefly introducing you to the data science, then Python for data science. Yeah, can anybody know who is this person? Yes. Yes, organizer is participants muted by default by you, or can we have an interactive session?
Ma'am, it is an interactive session. They can unmute and they can talk.
Okay, no issues. Right? So this person who you are seeing, okay, just see his expressions. He is so representative when he is representing all his feelings. His face is readable. He is very happy, right? So this person is none other than Guido van Rossum, okay, who basically developed the Python, right? So Python is an experiment in how much freedom programmers need. So what he said is, Python is an experiment in how much freedom programmers need. That means a complete freedom is given in Python programming language, okay, in order to write the programs for any kind of application. And when you are given too much of freedom, then there is no question of reading another's code. No scope for copying the program from one to other. Normally our student does that, right? So as this has got complete freedom and readability of the language, so there is no question of reading another code. If too little is the expressiveness, then it is endangered. When we have a lot of restrictions within the programming language, then we need to remember much of the logic, then we are restricted to write the applications for various domains, right? So this is what is said by the father or the one who developed Python language, Mr. Guido van Rossum. Now looking back to the history of Python programming language. So this Python is basically a high-level programming language. So the main aim of this Python programming language was to incorporate the readability. As much as possible, we are writing the program very near to the English language, we can say. So due to this readability feature of Python programming language, it has gained a lot of popularity in almost all domains of the software development, and it is one of the important programming language that has been used for the developments. So when you look into the early history of the Python language, so it started with Rossum again. So Guido van Rossum, basically he worked for the project ABC language in Dutch CWI Research Institute, right? So when he was working in this Dutch university, he created the successor of ABC language. Initially he was working for ABC language. You might have heard during the evolution of C language. Before C language exists, there was a ABC language, right? So this Rossum also was working on ABC language, and then he continued his work on ABC language and created successor of ABC language along with the additional facilities which were exceptional handling and compatibility with the Amoeba operating system. He added these two features to the existing ABC language, right? So that resulted into the Python, right? So Guy von Rossum was the developer of Python who initially worked on the project of development of ABC language, and later he added some additional features like exceptional handling and compatibility with the Amoeba operating system interface. Hence, the resultant was the Python language. Basically, the formation of this Python language or development of this Python programming language started in 1980s, and the final version came into usage in 1989. So this person, the Rossum, was the main person, okay, whose role was very important in deciding the development of the Python. So due to this, as he played a central role in developing this Python language, so he was titled as Benevolent Dictator for Life, BDFL, by Python community, right? So you know the meaning of benevolent, one who helps, okay, helping leader of life. So that award has been given to the Rossum, and after 1989, developing Python, and he worked for few more years in developing or adding more flavors to the Python. Then he stepped down to the political career in the year 2018, and then it is continued by other organization, right? So a lot of people, I mean, normally what we think is Python. Why the name is Python, right? So they assume that Python is very vast language. We can develop any kind of application, including your embedded system, or it might be database management, or may it be your machine learning or artificial intelligence. Okay, so you may think that there are a lot of tools that are available in the ecosystem of Python. Even the Python snake is too large, maybe the name has come due to that. No, it is wrong, right? So basically the name Python for this language is named after a show, Monty Python's Flying Circus. So there was a flying circus named Monty Python's, which is basically a comedy serial. I don't know why they have chosen, right, in the history. Okay, maybe there are many roles and many things. It was a 45 episode serial, right? We may see those 45 serials and we'll come to know the reason why they have chosen this name, Monty Python's Flying Circus, to name the Python programming language. So this is the truth, that Python language is not named after the famous species snake, rather it has been named by the a comedy serial, Monty Python's Flying Circus. And then next version of Python was Python 1, right? So the code for Python with the version number 0.9.0 was basically issued in February 1981. Okay. That means we have seen in 1989, right, after 2 years, this Python 1 came into the existence. Features wherein they included functions, exceptional handling, then core data types and classes with inheritance were present, right? And this release also consisted the modular programming concepts. So basically we had a separate language for this modular programming. For the large programming constructs, okay, we used to go for modular programming. So the first language for modular programming was Modular 3, right? So even this modular programming construct has been included in Python 1. Okay. And once after the grew up of this Python 1 in early 90s, okay, this growth was due to the inclusion of this lambda, reduce, map, filter all these functions, and also keyword as an argument, then functional programming tools and built-in support for complex numbers, right? So as and when the need of the developer occurs, okay, so there was an evolution in the Python. So in 90s, that is during this 90s, Van Rossum started once again the initiative called as programming for everybody, right? So what was the olden days? Okay, so people used to think only the computer graduates can write programs. No. So you might have heard many of the softwares are not written or developed by these only computer engineers. Rather, there are certain software languages which are developed by even non-computer science people, right? So in order to support such developers, non-technical developers, so the Rossum's aim was to develop a programming language so that everybody can write a program or they can code for any application. So with this aim, he started developing on CP4E, that is computer programming for everybody. Hence, the main purpose of this CP4E was what? To make programming more accessible, more easy to the common people, and anybody can write the program or anybody can do the coding. Right. So as Python is focused on the clean syntax and accessibility, it plays an important role of this coding. Anybody can code. Okay. Though this CP4E is inactive nowadays, but Python is still growing and meeting the people's demand. Then next, after Python 1, the central person of this Python development, Rossum, right? So with this development of Python, there was an issue came to the light that in 90s, the language was totally dependent on this developer Rossum. Hence, there was another group. Okay, in the year 2000, BOpen Python 2.0 was released by this BOpen Python Labs team. Okay, then in order to make this more usable by various domain people, not dependent on only Rossum, rather the team has been increased to have more features into this Python language. So this version basically provided the greater transparency with its more open fundamentals and community oriented approach. Okay. So though this version was used very little time, okay, so the release notes of this version also stated that version was less about coding and more about the development of Python. Okay, why we say it is a less about coding? Because whatever we write in the program is almost like an English language. There are no restrictions or very less restrictions associated with coding. The next version of Python is Python 3. So on 3rd December 2008, so Python 3.0 was released. Okay, so which is basically referred as Python 3000 or Py3k. So main idea behind this Python 3.0 is to remove the whatever flaws present in the previous edition or previous version, right? So one problem associated with the previous version was this redundancy of information and backward compatibility, right? So whether program written in Python 2 is compatible with Python 1 or not. So in order to incorporate that backward compatibility could not be retained. Hence, this Python 3 came into the existence. And a lot of efforts have been made here in the Python 3 to remove the duplicate constructs and modules to make sure that there is only a single way of doing things in Python 3. Right? So duplication has been removed. And many number of tools have been identified. Okay. So where the change was required in Python 2 to make it work in Python 3. That means in order to support the compatibility between the various versions of Python, a lot of efforts have been taken in Python 3. So from year 2012, so the approach of creating a single code base can run for both Python 2 and Python 3 came into existence. So you can write a code either in Python 2 or Python 3 so that you can run in any version of Python. Then looking into the future of Python. So what is the future of Python programming or Python? So we can say that Python cannot be forgotten in the near future as its user base is too vast. We can see in the surveys that they have been conducted by various standard organizations where Python is among the all programming languages, and what is the demand of this language in near future. Okay, as there is a lot of scope and growth in Python language, still you have a lot of future, and all budding engineers have very good future in this particular area of Python programming. Then many well-known industries are basically using this Python, and many OS developers also support this Python programming language. Hence, its future looks bright, right? So it is basically used in the information security industry and many more industries. We'll see later in the applications. So due to all these kind of very good or bright future of Python, okay, so this Python is said to be one of the best performing language, and it has received an award in 2007, then 2010 and 2018 by TiEBay. So what is this TiEBay? The importance being earnest. So it is one of the organization which basically measures the demand of any programming language. So this checks more than 1,056 million lines of code of customers worldwide real time each day, and then decides which programming language is better. Okay. Then the language with maximum growth and popularity over the year gets this award. So every day this organization checks so many millions of codings written in various languages, okay, and then it decides which particular language is in demand and which is most popular language, and then gives the award, right? So Python has become very high adaptive choice in order to support functional programming, object-oriented programming, and parallel programming models. That means Python is suitable for any type of programming models like structural or functional, or may it be object-oriented or parallel programming and embedded programming or whatever. So you can see here we have a very good future of Python with the growth of data. The person basically carrying the data over here and moving from year to year. So as the data grows, the future of Python also grows. That you can depict from this picture. So one of the survey conducted shows that which are the top 10 programming languages in 2020. This is what is the analysis. So you can observe a big circle, okay, with 31.2%, okay, for Python, obviously says what is or which is the best programming language among all this. Next comes Java. Java also was one of the best programming language, right? But this Python has overtaken the place of Java. Similarly, you can see here Java with 19.6 and C++ with 9.8, Ruby 7.1, JavaScript 6.7, C# with 7.4, and so on. So compared to all other languages, Python is at the top with the 31.2%. Now, when you have a growth of some 7 programming or top 7 programming languages, when you look back into this survey where every language growth has been showed with the bar graph over here, once again you can observe the growth of that language starting from 2017 till 2020. So in 2017 Python has got the score of 41,000, then next in the 2018 46,000, and then 2019 61,018, and when you come down now at 2020 it is 73,733. So this is what is the popularity and growth in the Python. So while you compare this with other languages, Java is just stable. Like it has got a growth from 2017 to 18. It has got a demand even in the year 2017, and with the same demand or little more much increase in the 2020, right? But Python, there is a progressive growth in the demand of this language or performance of this programming language. So this is the Python ecosystem. At the bottom layer you can have a Python with many more tools based on type of application that you are developing. There are much more tools that are available, like you have IPython, NumPy, then Jupyter, Matplotlib, Pandas, and so many. So still many are there. Here it has been listed very few. So many such tools are present in Python ecosystem. Then coming down to Python for Internet of Things, right? So I think already you have completed 2 sessions, and you are all, I think majority of you are computer science people, and you know the importance of Internet of Things. So what is the reason behind developing the Internet of Things? Is main the automation. So we want automation in every field. Okay. So in order to incorporate that automation, so industry chosen this Internet of Things in order to revolutionize in the automation. So this is the main backbone for automation, we can say. Internet of Things is the main driving force, okay, for any kind of automation. So nowadays every person would like to have a comfortable life, safe life, secured life, right? Even though I am in some village, I would like to get some treatment. May it be a simple treatment or very complicated treatment. So it is made possible with the help of this IoT technology. So basically it unleashed a range of benefits in even agriculture. May it be any field, agriculture or pharmaceutical or health sector, or say in cyber crimes, or any intelligent machines. Okay, so everywhere you can use this IoT for automation and making one's life simple and comfortable, right? So the usage of these IoT devices is increasing year by year, right? So when you look back to the data, okay, so more than 8 billions of IoT devices have registered from 2016 to 2018. Okay, so what is the meaning of this registry of IoT devices? Here in Internet of Things, basically things are communicating with each other. Objects are communicating with each other, placed remotely. So every object within that internet connectivity should be registered. Every object has got its own identification number. It is unique. Every object connected to the internet in IoT technology is unique. You have a UID for every object that has been connected under IoT. So there are 8 billions of IoT devices that have been registered during the period of 2016 and 18. And as per the experts analysis, by end of 2020, almost we are at the end of this 2020, this count of registered devices may be more than 30 billions. Currently today what I searched in the survey is till now 38.5 billions of devices have been registered in this internet in order to communicate within themselves, in order to adopt IoT technology for automation. And look back to the market value of this IoT. So this will reach $7 trillion by end of this year, maybe increasing. Okay. So as the Internet of Things evolving continuously, then it is difficult to analyze which tools are more useful in IoT development. So one more problem comes over here. As many number of objects are registered in this IoT for communication, for any kind of application development, then it is difficult to manage those objects which are connected through this internet. So for that, you may need to adopt some more technologies like cloud technology is essential in order to store the information of all these registered devices, manage those communication among them, and then look back to the data that has been collected from these objects, then storing and maintaining those data and doing the analysis is very difficult task. Then we have to make the growth in the technology not only in IoT but even in other fields like cloud technology, or it might be an intelligent system, right? So everywhere the evolution is must, right? Then as far as development of any software for IoT technology is concerned, we need to choose smartly which particular language is suitable for developing the applications in IoT. So there exist many programming languages for developing IoT devices. So initially you may begin with your Android, your Arduino board. Then you can go for this Python language later. Okay. Then Arduino board directly give you IDE and then you start writing the program over there, right? But with the support of this Python language, okay, you can develop a smart application in this IoT technology. Okay, so the code written in this Python for IoT application is flexible, dynamic in nature, and helps developers in increasing the intelligent devices, right? So this is what made every developer to move towards Python for developing any application using Internet of Things. So already you might be knowing what is Internet of Things. So there exist many objects, okay, which are connected with each other, and once after connecting among them, they may communicate just as we do in the internet. We just log in, we create many users, we send mails, we send pictures, we communicate many information among ourselves, right? We download the things, right? So as man uses internet for fast communication and information exchange, same is the way between the object. Even two objects can communicate with each other, can interact with each other, can transfer data with each other, and then act according to the data exchange and information provided to them in order to make man's life simple or better. Then I will just take a glance about the IoT. So what is IoT? It is basically a network of the objects which are nothing but electronic devices. They contain software, sensors, actuators, and connectivity. So this connectivity basically allows for things can be connected, can have interaction, and can exchange the data. So this IoT is like an ecosystem where physical objects are connected and can be accessed through the internet. So there are n number of definitions that you can find in any textbook, right? So the main objective is to have a connectivity among the objects, have the interactions among the object through the internet. So this revolution in the IoT is going to change the human living style in future. So everything you can sit at one place and do n number of jobs with the help of this IoT technology. So this will change the way how the communication happens between the human to human or human to machine, right? So the primary use of this IoT is just not making everything automation, just like automatic coffee maker or door opening system or switching the light or measuring the sunlight, or it might be measuring the temperature or humidity. Not only that, but it also collects the data from various connected devices, and then you can use this data collected from various devices and make the decision in future in order to make a fruitful decisions. It's a responsibility of IoT technology even to gather the data from the connected objects, and then based on the data you can make the decision, right? Then the IoT application in the hospital, right? When you consider this case study of hospital management, so IoT application in the hospital will collect the patient's data and then analyze different IoT monitoring machines. So you can see nowadays in the hospital, okay, even not only wired devices are there, even wireless devices are present. Okay, wireless technology is there. So every device used to measure some parameters of or related to health condition of a patient. Okay, then there are n number of devices to measure various parameters, and each device communicate with each other, and then which will basically help to do the treatment for any kind of disease. Okay, and this makes the doctor's life easy, and they can take a proper decision and predict the patient's condition, right, and can give the proper treatment, right? So even when you come down to the business application of this Internet of Technology, so this device allows consumers and business people and the device connected with those people run efficiently, okay, and even make their life very easy to have a good growth in their business. So look down to the history of IoT. The name IoT name came into existence in 1999. Kevin Ashton coins the term Internet of Things. Okay. And this is establishes MIT's Auto ID Center, and then Global Research Network of Academy Laboratories, basically focused on this Internet of Technology. Internet of Things, right? So how basically this Internet of Things works? So the main core technology behind this Internet of Things is wireless sensor network. Okay, so wherein the sensor network connects the data present in various sensors, and this data is communicated within the network. So keeping that as a base and enhancing some of the restrictions presented in wireless sensor network, this technology came into existence. So this IoT is sometimes referred as Internet of Everything, because here only machine to machine connectivity is not there, even machine to human connectivity also can be done. So this consists of all the web enabled devices in order to collect, send and act on the data they acquire from their surrounding environments using embedded sensors, processors, and communication hardware. Right? So this is totally a communication among the objects which are hardware. Right? So they will be communicating with each other. Hardware, one machine to other machine, or one machine to a human being. So this kind of interaction you can have. So these devices are often called connected or smart devices. Why they are called smart devices? Because they are electronic devices connected through internet. They will act as per the data that they have been sensed. Okay. And these smart devices would like to talk with each other or have the interaction. Okay. Then this is done with the help of M2M communication. So what is M2M communication? Machine to machine. One machine can communicate with other machine and act on that information which they got from other machine. Right? So humans also can interact with the machine, okay, and set them up, give them up instructions or access the data. But the devices do most of the work on their own without human intervention. Right? So there are two technologies in this IoT object interaction. It might be M to M or M to H. Right? H to M, M to H. You can use when one is the source and another one is a destination, user and consumer. If user is a human and consumer is a machine, and then we can have H to M communication. If machine is a producer, human is a consumer, and then we can have M to H technology in IoT. So this existence basically made possible all tiny devices like mobiles available these days, and we can have the interaction among these devices. So this is the life cycle of Internet of Things. First stage is collecting the information and data, and then communicate this through the internet, then analyze and then act accordingly. So we can elaborate on this. Collection. So devices and sensors present in the IoT are collecting the data everywhere. It might be your home or your car or office or manufacturing plant or whatever. It might be even forest, right? So wherever you are, your device present under this IoT technology collects or senses the data. So this is the first stage of life cycle of IoT, collecting the data through devices and sensors irrespective of where that device present. And then communication. Once the data has been collected by the sensor of IoT system, and then sending this data and events to the network to some destination. Object would like to communicate with each other. Hence, after the successful collection of the data from the sensor device. Assume that your camera itself is a sensor device in a surveillance system, then it will be continuously sensing your video signal and sending to the destination for observation, right? So in order to perform this data transmission, the data might be a small size or medium size or large size data. Then in order to manage this large data to be communicated among the objects, then you may use a cloud platform, or you may have your private data centers, or you may have home network. Right? Based on the size of the data, you can use various technologies in order to collect this data and send through the network. The next stage of life cycle is analysis. So once after collecting the data and communicating, then you will have to create the information or outcome of this. So creating the information from the data is nothing but visualizing the data or building the report based on your requirements, then filtering the data, right? So you can analyze and make the data communicated a useful one. and then perform the action based on the analysis. So taking action based on the information and data. So communicate with other machine. Okay. So once you received, say suppose you are measuring the or performing the soil testing. Once you have performed the soil testing in the agriculture land, then you may send that information that what is the condition of the soil today, whether we can go for next process, right? Or else the action that you are going to take in some other application might be sending the notifications. Say you have a surveillance system where you actually caught a thief, okay, or some unwanted object is moving, and then immediately you can send a SMS or mail to the control room, okay, in a online surveillance system using this IoT technology. Then talk to another system, right? Suppose if a person is suffering with the COVID, then you can develop an IoT enabled application. Then just by placing that machine, your machine should tell that this person is positive or negative. So nowadays people are interested more in this COVID related application developments. Then it is much easier using IoT, Python and data science, I can say. So these are the 4 phases of life cycle. Then looking into how IoT works. Okay. So there are once again 3 stages: RFID, sensor, smart technology and nanotechnology. So radio frequency identifiers can be used in order to capture the data, right? So the structure of IoT, it can tag the things in real time, traceability and addressability by the RFID. Once after tagging or collecting the data, then next stage is feeling the things. So you are feeling the things through what? The sensors. Sensors act primarily device to collect the data from the environment. Because why you say it is feeling the things? Because you may be measuring the moisture content, you might be measuring the humidity or temperature, or whatever might be the parameter. So you are feeling the things through these sensors. And once you tagged the things and did the sensing of things, and then you can go for having the interaction among the objects of any size. As far as possible, you want to have a communication with the smaller and smallest devices. So this is nothing but the miniaturization, nanotechnology, right? With the help of nanotechnology, you want to go for miniaturization of any devices. Okay, so shrinking the things, and then thinking the things is nothing but embedding the intelligence to the devices. Whatever electronic devices you are using, you want to make it intelligent. So your mic is basically identifying only voice, but in future you may think that it has to even identify voice and then person temperature and what type of perfume that person is using with the smell sensor, and whether there is a smoke in that area, person from where he is talking through this mic. Okay, so all these you can embed in a single mic. So you make that mic intelligent by embedding the intelligence. Suppose if there is a smoke, how much thickness of that smoke is present over there. So that also you can measure. So this is nothing but the incorporation of thinking capacity to the smart devices, right? So these are the various stages in the structure of IoT: tagging the things, feeling the things, shrinking the things, and thinking the things. And then coming down to the application, you might be knowing various applications of IoT. It might be a home automation or manufacturing industry or a health sector or media, environmental infrastructure and so many else. So you can say, you just name it, any application, and you will have it in IoT. So IoT can serve anything, we can say. You just provide the name, then you get that service from IoT. Hence, the ultimate goal of IoT is what? automate human life. Whatever might be the place, whatever might be the situation, whatever might be the requirement of the human being, it's a goal of any IoT technology to serve the human and make human life automated. Right? Now coming back again to the Python, because I am going to cover why we should choose this IoT for Python. So once again I repeat the story, why Python. Okay, so it is one of the popular high level language with high readability, and it is interpretable language, and it supports multiple programming paradigms like object oriented programming, structured programming, functional programming, and so many things. Okay, and compared to other languages, it has got very fewer steps. It is called a general purpose programming language and so on. Okay, so this can be used for developing any kind of software. To develop the software, mathematics, web applications, then scripting, anything. So in case of web development, developer can use this Python for server side and even client side. Okay, so as far as data handling is concerned, Python can handle big data, big and complex data very easily, and it can work with different platforms like Windows, Mac, Linux, and Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is very important, as here we are interested in Python for IoT, right? So it is one of the efficient, fastest programming language because it runs on the interpreter. Because when you write a one code, it has been immediately interpreted and you use the result immediately, right? So with this advantages, we can go for Python for developing the IoT, right? Even when you have many things connected within the Internet of Things, okay, maintaining the database is very tedious job. Hence, this Python with IoT can serve that purpose. And when you have this large data, normally this database is handled with the help of this MySQL. I mean, any kind of manipulations can be done on data with the help of MySQL, relational database management system. Okay, in this regard, MySQL DB is a very convenient tool for managing the data associated with the devices or object present in the IoT technology, and even you can use the Python scripting to read and write the database. So along with this MySQL DB to maintain the database and Python scripting language to access this data, structured data, Python has got flexibility of understanding other languages too. That means even you can write programs in other languages like assembly language or C language, C++ language, Java, PHP, and many more, right? So you can embed the program written in various languages listed over here with the Python. Python has a compatibility with all these languages. And some more features why we are going for Python for IoT development. Okay, so first of all, easy to code with the clear syntax and readability. It is very easy for coding, and Python has simple syntax. Okay, no restriction like in other languages, and it is interpretable language. Hence, the quick results can be expected. And the next, embeddable. As I said, few of the languages listed like C, C++, JavaScript, PHP, all those codes written in those languages can be easily embedded with the Python. So hence it is embeddable. And then Python is extensible language, as developers can write programs with fewer lines, and compared to the other language, the size of the program written in Python is very small. And next feature is what? Portable. Python is portable, hence there is no need to change the code for different machines. The code written in one machine with one architecture of the machine, okay, will run on another machine, right? Then free and open source. One best thing about Python is it is freely available. No need to pay for buying this software, right? So free and open source, source code is directly available and you can download using Google. Okay, and then community support. As large number of group of people are using this Python, so obviously there is a community support for this Python programming language for development of any application or software. Then easy to learn. Okay, so anybody can learn, we can say. Technical or non-technical persons can learn this Python very easily compared to any other languages like C++ and Java, and easy to debug, easy to find the errors within the program because it's very readable and very simple language. Okay, and a lot of library supports and easy installation of these libraries. Okay, you can see the ecosystem wherein you have many libraries and tools associated with the Python, which can be easily installed, and you can have usage of those libraries to develop your application. Then how learn Python? There is no need of any coaching or any mastery is required, or you require any guru for this. Okay, you can learn by yourself. Then what you can do is just download Python 3.9.0, which is the latest version of Python, which is freely available. And even if you are not following anything, or you have faced any problem, then Python documentation is available in python.org, which is created by the Python community. Then you can start your journey with the Python. Okay. Then why use this Python for next IoT developer? Okay, so once again, the conduct a survey by Stack Overflow survey. Python is one of the fastest growing programming language, which is basically used for software development companies to develop product from simple to complex application, right? Then obviously you choose Python for developing any IoT applications. Normally, whenever you are choosing any programming language for the development, your expectation is to have a simple language wherein you can have a lot of flexibility to develop any software, right? So simple is better than complex. So Python scripting programming language is used in various areas of programming. I already said this. It can be used in information security, in artificial intelligence, games, microcontroller, and many more, and of course in IoT. Okay. So multiple programming paradigms are permitted in this Python, right? Yeah. Can you see this code over here written in C++, Java, and Python, right? Simple is better than complex, wherein you are writing the hello world program, right? To write a simple line of hello world, you are writing around 7 lines of code in C++, around 5 lines of code in Java, whereas only 1 line of code in Python. This is what is the simplicity or readability of Python. There is no need of support of these linkages to the library mentioned within the program as we do in case of C++, right? No class concept like Java. So directly at the command prompt or at the IDE, you are say just print hello world will serve the purpose. So this is a simple comparison of Python with other languages in order to demonstrate the simplicity of Python language or readability of Python language. Then coming down to the applications of Python. So Python, already we said, you just ask for it, it will give you everything that way, right? So there are lot many domains wherein you can use Python language. Okay, it might be used for web and internet developments, internet protocols. It can be used for developing the libraries, then scientific and numerical applications. You can observe here for scientific and numerical applications. Okay, you have many mathematics, science and engineering packages in SciPy. SciPy is basically used for developing mathematical, scientific and engineering applications. Then Raspberry Pi is used for designing IoT application as well as your robotics, right? And then Pandas is basically used for analysis and modeling of libraries, right? So even with the Python, you can develop the graphical user interfaces. You have a TK GUI library and Kiwi library for writing multi-touch applications. And yeah, I think this is repeated. Okay. What are the key benefits of Python for developing IoT projects? So now coming down to the object interaction and application development using IoT projects is concerned. Okay, so you are sensing the devices, right? So you must have low entry threshold, a specific structure of the language or auxiliary components connected, okay, can understand with each other quickly using Python. So low entry threshold meaning to say object can have the interaction quickly among themselves in IoT. Okay, and then the next benefit is well designed. So Python incorporate modern programming trends practice. Okay, so this modern trend help us to develop or well developed program. And then easy to read syntax, readability is more. Then huge number of libraries are available. You have seen in the ecosystem many libraries are still under development. Okay, so web development can use directly the spreadsheets or images or Twitter network. Okay, so make data present anywhere. Huge number of libraries help us to read that data. So portability testing, right? So all these benefits are incorporated when you are using Python for developing the IoT projects. Now coming down to my third topic, as I said, my topic is Python, IoT and data science. So we have seen with a lot of elaboration on Python and then IoT and why Python for IoT and all. Now coming down to the data science. What basically is data science? We'll have an introduction and then the data science for IoT and why Python for data science. So what basically is data science? So it is the interdisciplinary field about scientific methods, processes and systems to extract knowledge of insights from data in various forms. Okay, that means we are working on scientific methods, processes, systems, okay, in order to extract the knowledge, okay, from data in various forms. So when you are working on data, then the main aim of this data science is to understand the data and get what type of data you have and how you can use the data for your further processing. So that is what is the data science. You want to analyze the data, you want to understand the data, right? Then in order to understand the data, it basically requires some knowledge of various disciplines, we can say. In order to understand the data science and its applications, okay, you should have the base for mathematics, statistics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, domain expertise for which you are developing any software or application, then advanced computing techniques, then computer vision, linguistics, visualization, database, and storage. So this academic discipline knowledge is required in order to understand the data science, right? Then we can see why these are required. When you look back to the workflow of this data science, so our first aim is to get the data and then generate the models, okay, data models. In order to generate the data models, you are understanding the data, okay, then understand the domain. What is this understand world? Understanding world is for which particular domain you have collected the data. After generating the data model, then you are going to generate the data products like reports, application forms, dashboards, then notebooks. So this is the representation of the data in various forms, and then you are making the decisions and actions as per the data you have been generated. Then before we know what is data science, we need to understand what is data and what are the types of data, what is the complexity of the data, and from where we are getting this data, right? So the data might be a qualitative data or quantitative data. And as far as the complexity of the data is concerned, it might be a structured or semi-structured. When you look into the structured data, your relational database management system, all the relations and tables comes under structured data. Whereas in semi-structured data, you might be having JSON or XML, CSV, and logs. So comma separated variable data, when you want to collect the data from your Facebook or Twitter, you have got messages with some embedded information represented in the symbols, the numbers. Then you will have to understand that semi-structured data and then convert them into the meaningful one. That is what we have seen in the previous diagram. So when you have unstructured data, under this unstructured data category, you may have images, videos, signals, and everything. So it's a responsibility of any data scientist in order to understand this semi-structured and unstructured data and make them structured or understandable way for further processing. Then from where we are collecting the data? As far as our IoT is concerned, we are collecting the data from the things, where things are communicating with each other. We sense the data and then we collect the data. That means data is everywhere. Data is very precious nowadays, and nobody bothers how to make your data secure. We simply do many conversation through your WhatsApp, through your mails. We provide all the details, right? Then you can just think whether your data is safe. Are you keeping your data safe, some personal information safe? That is what is the resultant of many hacking happening nowadays, and people are facing a lot of problem due to this cyber crimes, right? So where is the data? Data is everywhere. So it is present in the open data set, or it is present in Twitter, Google, or it is present in the web, or even IoT sensors, right? So data is everywhere. Then in data science, to understand the data, okay, the data size always we expect is very big data, right? Then what are the three properties of this big data is volume, variety, velocity, veracity, and this value, right? So 5 V's of big data. So first we representing the volume, what is the size of the data is, okay. So representing the raw data, and variety, what type of data you have. So this comes under second V, variety, and velocity of the data, how frequently your data is changing. Suppose when you are sensing the temperature from morning to evening for all the 365 days, so the temperature gets changed. So whatever temperature you have sensed, okay, so the data keeps on changing by time. So likewise in many applications, there is a velocity of data, change in the value of the data with respect to time. And then data quality comes under the fourth V, veracity. Okay, so whether the quality of data that you have acquired is useful, and how you are converting that unuseful data to useful data, right? And then information for decision making. So value is nothing but based on some data you are taking the decision whether I have to go outside today or not, based on the weather condition, whether it is raining or not raining, then I have to go out for this. Okay. So these are the 5 ways. Then what is the responsibility of algorithms as far as data science is concerned? So we have plenty number of algorithms need to be designed in order to discover the links between the data. So what are those algorithms that are present? Okay, so taxonomy of algorithm goes like this. So sometimes in some application we may go for problem of classification or regression, or it might be a machine learning application wherein we are going for supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced learning is happening. In case of this supervised learning, we have regression and classification problems, and in case of unsupervised, we have data driven and clustering problems, and then in case of reinforcement, we have algorithm learned to react to the environment, right? See, this data science and algorithms in data science is basically very vast topic. So it's very difficult to cover along with these two technologies. I am just giving you the glance of the algorithms that present for any data science application, right? So this is the process what is happening in your data science. When you are developing the model, always it is a cycle or iterative process, we can say. Once you develop the model, you can evaluate and optimize for that model. So when you are going for this iterative process, you go for optimization and then use it, that is deploy the model, and then once after deployment, you observe the performance of that model, and then you can define the problem and once again acquire and prepare the data and go for development. Means it is an iterative process to come out with the optimal solution in the data science. Then data science applications, where basically we use the data science. So first application is transaction databases. So what comes under this category is your recommender systems or fraud detection, right? So your Netflix is there. So Netflix is providing you many programs, right? So based on your rankings, reviews, right? So they will provide you much quality programs. So kind of recommendation based system, okay, can be developed using data science. So such developments comes under transaction of databases, right? Similarly, wireless sensor data. So you have smart home or real-time monitoring system using IoT technology. So you are collecting the data and then you are developing a data base module in order to have this smart home by collecting the sensor data from this smart home IoT system. And next application might be a category of text data or social media data. So you are collecting an unstructured data from Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, or even your chatbots, and then you are making decision. You might have observed that 5 stars for some items in online markets, okay, online system, e-commerce system, then how that star has been ranked for any item that has been purchased. Okay, so many people write the reviews. So those reviews are unstructured data. Then how will your machine understand that unstructured data and then come out with those reviews of 3 star, 4 star and all. So that is due to the application of this data science technology to find out that ranking. Then genotype and phenotype data. So patient-centered, this is related to your healthcare. Okay, patient-centered care and personalized medicines, all this comes under this kind of applications. And then images and videos. So these basically used in your healthcare or surveillance system or facial recognition system, right? So you have this kind of data which are used for developing the system. Then how the data science and IoT are related. So as already I discussed, there exist many objects in IoT technology. Every object is sensing the data, and in turn this data should be analyzed and processed, right? Then vast network devices which are connected with each other, and one device is monitoring other device and collecting or exchanging the data with each other. As this is a very big data, I mean interaction is happening between the object, hence we need a technology of data science even in IoT technology. Then what are the Python tools for data science? Already we have shown in the ecosystem of Python, right? So data science applications can be developed in Python using NumPy, Pandas and Matplotlib. So this Python language is used to program even Raspberry Pi for data collection and talking to all different sensors, and at the same time allowing you to use it to write server-side apps for communicating with the third-party server, right? That means Python language can be used for IoT as well as data science. As far as data science is concerned, you have the Python libraries like NumPy, Panda and Matplotlib and many more for developing data science applications, right? So these are the techniques designed to help determine the condition of in-service equipment. When you consider any case study of building the models, then it has to predict the failure on their manufacturing process. This is in the quality maintenance department or quality assurance department of any production industry, wherein you can develop a predictive model and do the analysis whether product is developed with 0 errors or no minimum errors. So this kind of prediction application can be developed by jointly by data science and IoT, and through the analysis determine the factors that led to the yield of failure in the process. So once you got the data of that product after its development, and then you will have to analyze, and then you should come to know what is the reason for failure of that particular product. So this is a case study what is been considered over here, data science for IoT, maintenance of predictive modeling and analysis. So the system in developed over here will predict the failure, will classify types of failures and find similar cases and analyze the reason for the failure, and once after performing all these 4 steps, then you can recommend a solution after studying all this data associated with the failures. So with that, I can conclude both Internet of Things and data science will change our entire world in near future. Okay, so connecting all the things with sensors and cloud computing will open the door to the next industrial revolution, because the data size is increasing very rapidly as far as this IoT technology is concerned, as many objects get registered themselves under this umbrella of IoT. And smart devices are increasingly filling our lives, and everybody wants automation, and it seems that this is the perfect time to launch a new IoT product, right? So there should need a day-to-day evolution in the technology of IoT, and handle the data associated with that. You need to have a mastery over the data science. Okay, how you can handle the big data associated with the IoT, and so be sure you do everything at the top level with the top tier coding language. This last line, because you will have to smartly choose the language that supports the object to be connected worldwide through the IoT technology and manage the big data. Then ultimately the point goes to the language Python, right? So I can conclude all these 3 technologies are very, very important, and I hope the audience will be from various institutions, and this kind of training programs help them to enhance their knowledge, then motivate them to learn the various upcoming technologies. So thanks to AICT and Atal Academy for taking up this initiative of train the teacher program through these Atal FDPs, and I congratulate this Sridevi Women Engineering College and whole team of organizers for getting selected for conducting this FDPA, and also thank the organizers, and once again AICT and Atal Academy for providing speakers to express themselves, to share the knowledge with their colleagues all over India. Thank you very much. Anything to be discussed or any questions?
Yeah,
You feel free.
I request participants, if you have any queries, you can ask.
Yes.
Okay. We'll conclude, ma'am.
Yeah, no issues.
Thank you, ma'am, for your stimulating effort. Thank you, ma'am, for your stimulating effort. We appreciate your approach to anticipate research intents. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and we hope to use your thought process. Thank you again for the enormous contribution in today's program. I, Shamal Telkar, would like to thank all the esteemed guests, speakers, and participants for your suggestion and unwavering attention throughout this session. Thank you, one and all. We will be back tomorrow for the second day of our FDP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.